it was rolling restart under the safety car. So it was.
We'd only actually had a few 100 meters of racing by this point.
I think by lap we were on lap 10, and I think we'd had no racing laps. It was a bit silly. So Bottas is still in P1 at this point, and he's been instructed by his engineer that don't put your foot down out of the last corner because the toe is so great that you'll only get mugged off by Hamilton or get overtaken by Hamilton by turn 1. So Bottas is within his right to go whenever he deems fit.
He controls the pace once the safety car is in, yeah.
Hamilton's done it hundreds of times before. Many other drivers have done it before, so this was Bottas's time. And he wanted to protect his lead, so he wanted to go as late as possible, which is completely understandable. You have to go before or on the start-finish line, if that's what I understand. So as soon as you pass that start-finish line, it's green light racing. But if you decide to put your foot down beforehand, it's up to racing speed.
Well, I think it's sort of like once you pass the start-finish line,
it's free.
You are now racing.
Yes, yeah.
Basically, you are now racing.
But he chooses when to bolt. So Hamilton, if they decided to bolt on the last corner, Hamilton would have to stay in the slipstream or just alongside Bottas until the start-finish line and then create the overtaking opportunity. Anyway, so Bottas left it quite late, undoubtedly, probably just at the finish line. I think it was grid position number 6, which is when he put his foot down, which is only 3 rows back at the end of the day. So it was probably 10 meters before the start-finish line. So, but behind, it wasn't Bottas's issue. Bottas was weaving to keeping the temperature in his tyres and wasn't speeding up or slowing down. But some cars behind him were almost pre-guessing when Bottas was about to jump and would speed up.
Some people leaving gaps and the like.
Yes, yeah. So they were speeding up and then slowing down and creating this concertina effect. And unfortunately, that works quite well if you're in the top 7 or 8 because you have good vision of what's going on at the start of the grid. You can see all the cars in front of you. But if you're back in, P15 to P20, you're just seeing cars put their foot down, almost go up to racing speed, and then we had a pretty horrific accident. From everyone's perspective, we were very lucky that people walked away from that incident okay. I know Carlos Sainz hurt his wrist. He's now said it's fine, but yeah, it was. The onboards were pretty scary, and I just want to mention again how reluctant we were. I feel like the F1 community was a little bit reluctant as a majority about the halo and how it hindered. It didn't do the aesthetics of the cars very. Didn't make them very pleasing. I was always for. I think a lot of people were, but there was a largely majority that wasn't for the halo. But there was bits of carbon fiber, front wings, tires bouncing off halos today, and that would have been drivers' crash helmets they were hitting instead of that halo. So again, really thankful that safety has come so far in this sport, and that these drivers can get out of these horrific crashes and walk across the grid and then go chill in their garage for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, I think on the restart, I think it might have possibly been Russell who left a bit of a gap, then moved to catch up a little bit, but the people behind him thought that he'd gone.
Yep.
And then the concertina effect was so great that it wasn't possible for the cars that had now gone to stop in time, and then it was. So
Sainz went straight into the back of, was it Magnussen? No, it can't have been Magnussen. Magnussen was collected later on. I can't
Definitely
remember.
A Haas involved. There was there, and Giovinazzi was there as well.
But Sainz went into the back of, I think it was the Alfa Romeo at quite a speed and mounted him, and I think Nicholas Latifi got hit.
A lot of the cars had a lot of the cars had been keeping really close together because it's quite a narrow track on the whole. So I think they were kind of itching to get past, unlike other types of sport where you kind of wouldn't necessarily do that. It wouldn't be much of an advantage to leaving gaps.
Absolutely.
And then trying to push. In Formula One, though, obviously the nature of the overtaking means that there was an advantage to be had there, and maybe they got a bit confused when they saw the green flag and they saw, oh, let's go. But, that's obviously not necessarily what that means.
Especially as Turn 1 was a proven really good overtaking opportunity. We saw multiple drivers go around the outside of Turn 1 and pull off some pretty special moves. But yeah, there was a green flag across the gantry on the start-finish line. And, the commentators did a good job of clearing this all up. But that green flag is just to show that actually we're under racing conditions. But these racing conditions are to
showed,
prepare for racing. You know, it's not necessarily put your foot down, we're going racing. It's actually the safety car is in now and the control of the pack is under the first driver. Whether there was confusion or not when the drivers, but yeah, the Constantino effect just messed up a lot of drivers today. And we're lucky it was on the scale it was.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, but a shame to see a couple of drivers out. So it's a shame to see Sainz come out of the race. He obviously already had a spin on lap 1. I'm not quite sure what positioning he was in, but that's why he was at the back of the grid and obviously was hindered so much by this Constantino effect. Nicholas Latifi got collected. A tyre went into his side radiator and punctured a hole through it. So he pulled over quite nicely, actually. Very well done on the pit exit. Not quite on the pit exit, but in that direction. So the pit lane could remain open. For the time being, they actually ended up getting a trolley wheel thing and wheeling him back into the pit lane. So that was good of him to position his car there. Kevin Magnussen also got collected. It wasn't Roman Grosjean. It was Kevin Magnussen.
It's another DNF for Magnussen.
Yeah, it's his 5th this year.
He's had quite a few this season.
I think they said it's his 5th this year, and we're only on, that's almost half his races so far. But that caused the red flag, the second red flag of the year. Second in 2 races.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of unusual, certainly, to have this kind of situation, to have the double red flags. It's funny, the last red flag before that would have been Baku 2017. And then we had obviously the one in Monza.
Yep.
And then we've had 2 in a row, and the last time we had 2 in a row was 2011. So just shows how uncommon it is to have a red flag in a session. And they've happened at 2 kind of like classic tracks, 2 kind of old school tracks, as we were talking about.
So you're not wrong.
It shows the danger of the newer tracks for sure.
Yep.
The older tracks, sorry. It shows the danger of the older tracks.
Because they have limited access and, just a different driving style. They don't have the runoffs of these new tracks. You look at Sochi, you've got quite large runoffs. Same with Bahrain, really large runoffs. Whereas this track didn't. It had gravel and then tyre barriers. So, yeah, the first red flag, everyone went into the pit lane and it was due to the amount of rubble and obviously the cars on the pit straight, which is why they had to. Initially, they were just going to say drive through the pit lane, but they decided to red flag the session.